think that through social media, being able to like show what you do, whether it's that's like on a day-to-day life, what your job looks like, or, being able to show that can also progress to like the younger generations. Like, oh, I didn't realize astrophysics involved this. I didn't realize this sort of area of space, actually involves something that I'm interested in. And so I think that's where social media plays a really huge point, is because I think especially in STEM, things get very complicated very fast, that you don't really know what is what or what you want to do, because there's just like so many different options or so many different areas of research. And so I think having not only, people showing you what the job is, but there are also women who are doing them. And so, I always tell kids, don't be afraid to reach out and, speak about what you're interested in doing, tell people what you want to do, because everything that I've seen, especially through like women in the science community, I mean, all of us want to help inspire or help, the next generation. So I always encourage them, like, if you see something that interests you, maybe message them, or, see what's around in your area that might be similar, or what is like a very like basic way you could connect back to it, whether that's a local observatory or a local robotics competition, or, something that revolves around what you're interested in.
And I mean, so like I'm studying the field of mental health and psychology. And that's been, over the pandemic, I went, I graduated school for that. And it's been, this, and the sciences, although, people don't necessarily realize, like, hearing that there are roles in psychology in that space. It's really important to sort of expand people's horizons of like what they otherwise might think it means to be involved in that. And so I'm curious to know a little bit, like, what initially inspired you to travel to Mars, and like what made you want to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back on it, I pretty much like all I've known is liking space. I don't really have much like memory of not liking space or anything before that. But I mean, no one in my family has any sort of background in a science or space career. So it was pretty out of the blue for me to bring it up. But my dad kind of remembers me like coming and asking questions, have people ever been to Mars before? Is space real? I didn't really know anything at the time. And my dad basically told me a little bit about the missions to the moon, because that's all he really knew about space. And then from then it kind of just like sparked more interest of me being curious, wanting books and videos and posters and that sort of thing. So our best guess is that it was an episode of The Backyardigans that was like a cartoon on Nickelodeon, just because we know there was a Mission to Mars episode. I watched the cartoon. Maybe that's where I heard the word Mars. That's really like the only place we've been able to like kind of go back and think of as to even where I would have heard about space to begin with, because it wasn't really something that, we didn't just talk about Mars casually, at the dinner table. It was definitely out of the blue, but pretty much the more I learned about space, the more interested I was. And then by the time I was able to go to space camp, which I went when I was 7, space camp was pretty much like the equivalent of like my Disney World. Like, it was everything that I wanted, life-size rockets, people teaching me about space, building my own model rocket, pretending I was an astronaut. It was pretty much like everything that I was wanting to do. So after space camp, I was like, something in space is for me. I just had to figure out what that was.
And that's that story, I mean, that resonates with me too. And I think it's important to share how much, fostering and encouraging that fixation or focus or interest can lead to something so huge and so incredible. So that's a really awesome, like, story. I'm wondering, like, what your role, or if you want to share a little bit more about your role with the Aquanaut IIS science researcher, astrobiology, international space relations position at what that's been like.
Yeah, so pretty much all that is a lot of stuff that's really happened recently, a lot of stuff that's going on now. A lot, basically my major is astrobiology, so that's kind of what I ended up leaning towards. And more than likely, I will probably be doing like microbiology and then connecting that to space, eventually connecting it to life on Mars, that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm currently in a research lab working on plant promoting microorganisms, and we're trying to test them, and then we'll eventually try to connect connected to different things that are happening in space. So astrobiology is pretty much what I'm looking to do and like work in the future. Aquanaut was something that I got this past summer. So summer's like a really good time to like just get things done. So an Aquanaut is basically like a 24-hour scuba dive. So, you know, you don't have to swim for 24 hours because that would be exhausting. But basically they have like little habitats submerged underwater. And so they have like little moon pools so you can swim up in them and like stay in these little habitats. So if you stay down there for 24 hours, you're under that pressure for 24 hours. So it's almost like living in a scuba tank. So that was kind of cool since I had done scuba diving for so many years. Definitely a more like fun kind of dive, or even just the idea of like connecting it to space, you know, being contained in a container. I ended up doing it by myself. So I was actually down there like all alone, just completely vibing. I had a few fish swim by. So that was really interesting on thinking maybe like some of like the mental aspects of space, or, you know, being by yourself or that sort of thing. So I thought that was really exciting. And then a lot of the work with IIAS, which is basically like a citizen science research group.
Yeah.
So it's a whole bunch of like everyday people. We come together, contribute to research. But with them, I started doing stuff when I was 15. And since then, we've done all sorts of research projects, which have been a lot of fun.